Okay, what I want to talk about today is ammo. So I started doing the long range thing back, oh goodness, it's been many years ago now, probably in the, pardon me, probably around 2012, maybe 2010, maybe a little earlier than that actually. I'm trying to think. But anyhow, it's been a while. And so I started with my 308, of course, and then I went kicking and screaming to a 6.5 Creedmoor, and then I didn't look back. But now I'm thinking more about going back to the 308 for hunting reasons, and uh, I think there'll probably always be 308 ammo, and it's very inexpensive compared to, pardon me, oh, compared to 6.5 Creedmoor ammo. I mean, that stuff's expensive. And so, what I did back, it's probably been probably close to 5 years ago now, maybe six. I thought, well, I'm switching over to just 22. I'm just going to do 22. And I know things like PRS and NRL were going then, but it wasn't near as popular. Ammo was still, you could still get ammo halfway decent, but I think I seen the writing on the wall as far as the price of ammo was going, and I can still do my long range, and I do long range with 22 long rifle. I've connected out to 500 yards with it, consistently at 400 yards, accurately out to 300 yards. And what I mean by that is 400 yards, you're shooting at a pretty big triangle, and you're not going to hold a group at 400 yards. I can't hold a group, and I've used some very expensive ammo, and it just doesn't happen. Now, 300 yards, it seems like everything changes after 300 yards with 22 LR. So what I did is I started shooting 22 LR, and I got to looking for matches. I wanted to do some 22 competition and things like that, and there just was nothing to be had in the state of Missouri back then. And now they have them everywhere. Pardon me. Oh, I guess I need a nap. But yeah, they have NRL, PRS, you name it, they've got it now. And there's been this big push in the last, at least 3 years, maybe four, that people are just, I mean, the 22 long rifle has just gone off the charts as far as the price of rifles, because so many people are buying them, and the price of ammo because so many people are buying the ammo. And so I said all that to bring us to the point of talking about the ammo. When I first went over to 22 LR, it was nothing to, I mean, I could order a couple bricks of Lapua, and it wasn't cheap then, but it wasn't super bad either. And of course, then you got your SK and Ely and different ones like that. And those are your, what I'm assuming I believe they're European ammos, and they're very accurate, made really well, very consistent. And here in America, we've had Winchester, Federal, Browning, Remington, CCI, and so on and so forth, and none of them are accurate. CCI standards, I noticed, was shooting fairly decent, and it's a subsonic round, So that's good. You're not having to go back through the transonic zone, or coming back in to subsonic. So makes it more stable. And it's funny, I've watched it where people have realized then everybody that's getting into the 22 shooting, competition shooting or the precision shooting or whatever, if it's egg shoots, if it's dum-dum shoots like what we do with little dum-dum suckers, and we've shot those out at 124 yards with a 22 long rifle. They're little bitty things. And then you shoot the suckers off, and then we start shooting the stems, cutting the stems in half. And anyhow, so it's just growed and growed and grown and grown. And more people buying 22s, high dollar 22s, the Voodoo, the Remex, you're talking thousands of dollars for one of these. And so I've watched this over the years, and I've been guilty of going down that rabbit hole several times now and get mad at myself every time I do. But you'll undoubtedly get with somebody that has a Remex, a CZ, or something like that, something different. And you see them shoot a really tight group. And you think, man, I got to have that. I got to have one of those. And so there you're going down that rabbit hole again. Then you realize when you get it, it really doesn't shoot any better than your Savage Mark II. Maybe not as good, average-wise, depending on the ammo you're using. I've owned several CZs, CZs, as they say in Europe, but I've had the MTR, the match barrel and everything, and they don't like cheap ammo. They just don't. And so I thought, well, I've got to find me something that I can afford to shoot. And so I keep going back to Savage and Ruger. So you can take a Ruger 1022 and put a really decent barrel on it, and that dude shoots great. Savage, the Savage Mark II with the bull barrel. My goodness, those things are very accurate. And again, you're at the mercy of the ammo, period. 22 ammo is just not accurate. It's not consistent. And I'm talking about the ammo that we have to buy in the United States because it's 22. People go, you're what? You're 22. What are you? And well, that's changing now. Now that the tariffs are on and you can't get Lapua or SK or some of the others that are made in Europe without paying, mortgaging your house to buy a brick of this stuff. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so people are hunting now for something that's made in this country that will suffice. And so what's come of that then is taken, and it seems like the CCI standard is the one. That's the one everybody wants that's made in our country. That's the one that it is pretty doggone accurate. We always call it the CCI flyer. You'll generally have a flyer with a CCI standards, but there's things you can do to correct that also that I figured out. And so guys are figuring out ways to make these accurate as far as lube, lead lapping their barrels. Like my Savage Mark II had a lot of scratches in the barrels. Matter of fact, I got a video up. I think it was the last one I put up. You can see before and after. And I fire lapped that rifle. And what I did is I just simply took some CCI standards, and I took some coarse rubbing compound, and just lubed the bullet up, stuck it in the chamber, and fired it, and did about 50 to 70 of those. And then once I ran a cleaning back through it, it was amazing the difference. Now, it didn't take all the scratches out, but it took a lot of them out and smoothed that bore. And it's just so much easier to clean, and it did shrink the group. And one thing I noticed, the great big flyers that CCI standards have, like, and when I say great big flyers, I'm talking at 50 yards, shooting the bench rest targets with the little bitty dot. You might have a flyer that's an inch. Everything else, you'll have, say if you're shooting a 5-round group, you'll have 4 rounds and are really touching, most of the time, touching each other, and making just one hole, bigger than the bullet, but one hole, say 200 thousandths thick. And then you'll always have one round go an inch off. Well, I've been finding out with the lube that I've been using, which is the beeswax, liquid beeswax. You can buy it on Amazon. It comes in a bottle about so big. And I had it in my guitar shop because I would use it in there on fingerboards and things like that when I was still doing repairs. And then polishing that bore and lead lapping that bore or fire lapping that bore, whatever you want to do. Of course, lead lapping, where you actually melt the lead and put it on a jag down the bore and all that. That's probably going to do a little better, but the fire lapping does a great job also. And then you can get the JB compound and then polish that bore really good. And what it does is, I noticed it takes the flyers away. And the big flyers, you might, a flyer now is maybe, just maybe a 1/8 of an inch from the group, just enough to tick you off. And instead of all of them being in one hole, you might have one just 1/8 of an inch off. So I've talked about all that and give you all that to get to what I'm seeing happening in this country now. And I don't know you guys that are 22 shooters like myself and my friends and my brother and his friends, notice that you can't get CCI standards anywhere right now. They just can't be found. Matter of fact, there's not too much of CCI anything that you can find right now. Mini mags are out there because they're not accurate and nobody shoots anything with a copper wash on it in competition for 22. So this has happened over about the last month, 30 days. And it's probably been coming longer than that, but that's when I noticed it. And there's nothing out there. No CCI standards anywhere. You can't get any of the Norma TAC 22. If you can find Lapua, boy, you're doing really good. Go on AmmoSeek and look for 22 for CCI standards, 40 grain, and see if you can find any. And if you do, they've gone from $4 and some odd cents, which they are here in Missouri, $4.50 or $4.60. I can't remember what they were, to $13. Now we're talking a 50-round box. So there's sellers out there, suppliers out there that are actually asking over $13 for a 50-round box of CCI standards. That's crazy. And that's simply because you can't find them anywhere. So we have a local gun store here, and my brother went up there, and the guy that runs it said he believes that what's happening is they're wanting to raise the price across the board on the CCI standards because everybody's buying them now because you can't get European match grade ammo for your NRL, your PRS, or any other kind of tournament that you're having. And I think he might be right. I think they're wanting a big price jump, and I think it's going to be massive. I think it's going to go from, let's just say $4.99, $5 a 50-round box. and I think it's going to go well over $10 a box. This, of course, CCI is not owned by, it's not an American company anymore, just like Federal, Remington, and Speer, and a couple others. They're owned by the Czech group, Czechoslovakian company. And it's a Czech group out of Czechoslovakia. And so I think they see the price of Lapua and SK and Norma and blah, 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 and all these match grade ammos, and I really believe they're wanting to try to raise CCI to that. And I think we're living in a time where there ain't a whole lot you're going to be able to do about it. Right now, you can buy. I bought a case at Walmart. I didn't even know you could buy a case at Walmart. Maybe this particular Walmart just sold it to me. But I went in and I was going to buy some Federal Auto Match. They're halfway decent. They're not going to hold the groups like the CCI standards, and most certainly not going to hold them like Lapua and SK and some of those. And again, it's what your rifle likes. Now, my rifle is not a huge lover of the my Mark II. I haven't shot any in my Ruger Kid build that I'm working on, but the Savage doesn't care a lot for them. I shot probably 100 rounds the other day. I did do a video on it, but yeah, it wasn't real good. It was all over the board as far as your speeds and your different things like that, and the amount of powder that's in the case, because it's just all over the board. I don't think the Mark II likes the speed of the bullet. I think it's a little over 1,100 feet per second. I can't remember how much. I don't think it's supersonic. I don't remember hearing a crack or anything, but it's close. And I bought a case of that, and because you can get a box of that at $19 here in Missouri, at the Missouri Walmart, you'll pay right at $20 for a box of 325 rounds of Federal Auto Match. And I think I give a little over 200, about 2.5 or a little less, I think it was 225 for a case of it. And a case of it, as far as Walmart has, is 10 of those boxes. So there's 3,250 rounds. But yeah, that's where we are. And anybody watching this that's into the 22 thing, and I'm assuming if you're watching this, you are. It's a Rimfire channel, but put in the comments and let me know what you're finding across different parts of the country. Here in Missouri, you can't find no CCIs. As far as I know, they're still going to be made in Indiana at the factory, but who knows? There's no reason for CCI standard not to be out. So they've cut production, they've done something. And we live kind of a sidestep from the ammo just a bit, but yet it kind of goes along with it. We live in such a funny time right now. I'm going to be 68 this year, here in just a couple of months. So, I can remember back when you got the Sears catalog, and the first thing you did was, as a kid, you went to the gun part of the magazine, and you could order a gun and it was delivered by the postman right at your door, which I'm laughing because it seems so strange to me now because all the hoops you've got to jump through. And this is another thing I don't understand when it comes to these laws and things like that. It's mainly Democrats, it seems like, that wants gun control, but I don't know about that. But that's the ones who tout it the most. And John F. Kennedy was a lifelong member of the NRA. You can look it up. John F. Kennedy was a lifelong member of the National Rifle Association. It's just a different time we're living in. and we're in these proxy wars. We don't make anything in our country anymore. We're in a mess. I don't know if you've taken the time to really sit down and look, but I've lived it now almost 68 years, and I can see such a vast difference. I worked in machine shops when I was younger. Them machine shops ain't even there no more. Caterpillar went to Mexico, and I think it ended up in China. I'm not sure, but at least the plant that me and my brother worked in, they shut it down. It left the country. Don't want to have to pay the wages. The union wages are a good wage, and you say, well, you're making too much money. The unions want too much. You got to have that much money to live. Have you noticed what bread costs lately? My wife bought one of them little cans of biscuits the other day. That thing is just under $3, and I think there's 5 biscuits in that. Sit and think about that for a second. $3 of doughy biscuits, 5 doughy biscuits to throw in the oven. My gosh, I mean, it's just crazy. And this whole thing about the Strait of Hormuz, I got news for y'all, and I hope I have to eat this hat right here in front of you on camera if this ain't true. But this Strait of Hormuz thing is going to break us, because Iran has figured out that they can shut that down anytime they want. And we can squeal, squall, do whatever we want. There ain't a thing we can do about it. Without wiping that country off the face of the earth, there's nothing we can do about it. They can shut that thing down in an hour's time. And they're doing it. And so what happens there, I've heard people say, well, we only get 15% of our oil out of the Strait. Well, that may be so, but it's if the oil goes up that comes out of the Strait, it goes up everywhere. Even the oil that this country sells has to go up. That's the way the game's played. And it goes back to the petrodollar, it goes back to OPEC and all that back in the 70s when that happened. And I'll tell you something else. If we lose the petrodollar, you ain't seen hard times like you'll see if we lose that petrodollar. And it's already being challenged by China and Russia and probably a couple other countries. Well, Iran being one, because China and Russia are buying from Iran. And they're not using the dollar. And Iran's taken the ruble and the yuan from China. So the United States, this 250-year experiment of our republic that practices democracy, is being challenged all over the world. And so far from where I sit, we're not doing well with these challenges. And most of you are probably hunters that listen to this channel, maybe not. I've been a hunter all my life, ever since I was about 10 years old. And when animals smell blood, boy, they go into a frenzy. And these other countries are smelling blood on the United States right now. They said it's dying. It's wounded really bad and it's dying. And what's doing it is all these proxy wars. But when you don't make anything in your country but munitions and guns, you've got to have a boogeyman. And that's where we are. That's why ever since 9/11, we've been in some kind of a war. I don't care if it's in Syria. We've had troops on the ground somewhere ever since 9/11 doing something that we know of. And the ones we don't know of is just unbelievable. It's a mess. And I don't know, but this thing could be coming to an end. This big experiment may be seeing the end. I'm a Christian, and y'all probably know that if you've listened to anything on this channel. I believe in the Lord. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I've read the back of the book, and probably one of the number one, if not the number one, the number two question is, by Christians, where is the United States in the end times? Why is it not mentioned in the Bible? And I said a long time ago, and I come to believe this a long time ago, that we're either going to be economically inept, in other words, we don't matter, or we won't be here, as we won't be known as we're known now. We won't be as strong as we are right now, militarily, because we're not strong economically. You can't have $30 trillion in debt and be strong economically, even remotely. We do still carry an awful big stick, but even that's being challenged. And what's happening is we've come into this belief. I don't know if it's our generals, I don't know if it's the politicians, but we've come into this belief that we can bomb our way into and out of anything that we choose, and it doesn't work. You, at some point, if you want to win a war, you have to put boots on the ground, and that's something America is not willing to do. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying, if you start something like he started in Iran, look at the mess we're in. This man thinks that he is winning this war, and Iran's just basically thumbing their nose at him. He says there won't be any I don't know if you call it a tax or a toll to go through the straits. And they're saying, yeah, there will be, or you ain't going through the straits, we'll shut it down. That strait is mined so heavily right now, it would take a minimum of 6 months to get the mines out of there. Now, they could take a path, make a path, but all the ships in there, do you realize how long this is going to if they open the Straits of Hormuz today and took every mine out of that strait tomorrow, we're still looking at months and maybe a year before things get back to normal. And nobody's ready for that. Not in this country. Because to be a prepper, you're to be made fun of. A prepper is nobody. You know what a prepper is? Today, in this society of today, a prepper is what everybody was back in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 20s. Excuse me. My grandma, she canned all the time. She wasn't called a survivalist or a prepper. She just canned her food. Because them people went through the Depression. And then we've gotten to this just-in-time system, JIT. So there's 3 days of food, they figure. 3 days of food in any given grocery store in the United States. Supposedly, what the United States has saved up or has on hand, we have 3 months nationwide. Well, if you're dependent on that, well, good luck. Take a look at Cuba right now. They get 2 hours of electricity out of 24 hours. Okay, I want to ask this then. What are the people on life support doing? They don't have fuel. There's no fuel in Cuba right now. I just seen a report. Pushing cars and motorcycles, there's no fuel. And what fuel that you can find is so catastrophically expensive they can't afford it. So that takes generators out. So tell me what's happening to the people that are on life support, that need diabetes medicine, because that's got to be kept cold. What's happened to those people? Chemotherapy, so on and so forth. Well, I can tell you what's happening to them. You may not hear it on the news, and I think you know what's happening to them. And if you watch these news reports about Cuba, my goodness, people are sitting around in the street now. Everybody looks like they're happy-go-lucky and they're getting by. You're not seeing any violence, at least on the ad that I seen about it. But they don't have guns. In this country, it would be a total different situation if we had a grid down. And a grid down, let me tell you something, you can consider 2 hours of electricity out of 24 as a grid down. That's a grid down, period. You can't have a refrigerator. You can't have anything like that. There's no refrigerator that'll keep meat frozen with only 2 hours of running that electricity or that refrigerator out of 24 hours, especially in the heat that they're enduring down there right now and the heat that the United States has right now. No way. It ain't happening. And I just don't think people are looking at this. This could happen anytime. It's crazy. We're going to be, and I see one thing, I see something that just breaks my heart. I see the United States turning against Israel. And that's not good. If you're a follower of Christ, you know what the Bible says. The Lord said, I'll bless them that bless thee, and I'll curse them that curse thee. And he's talking about the Jews. So, I know it wasn't much of a fun video, but maybe it's just something we all needed to think about. And in our realm, our little realm of 22 rimfire shooting, we're already experiencing mass shortages. And so what mass shortages create is mass hoarding. So when somebody does find some, and it's like a friend of mine used to say, you'll have strong hands and weak hands. The strong hands being people with money or access to money. And what you'll see then is large numbers of ammo being bought by one person or a few people. And I guarantee it's already happening now. So, anyhow, thanks for listening if you're still here this long. So we'll catch y'all next time.